The chamber is open and full of whispers.
It's October 31st, 1980, and in a small room above the Hogshead Inn in Hogsmeade, Sybil Trelawney, a woman who barely understands her own power, barely believes in it herself, utters a prophecy. And on the other side of that door, listening through the keyhole, is a wizard who will reshape the entire course of the wizarding world based on what he hears. But here's the thing. In the timeline we know, in the universe where Harry Potter defeats Voldemort, that prophecy is about a baby who will be born. A child born to two people who have thrice defied the Dark Lord. Born in July. Born to love each other. What if that baby never existed? What if, when Voldemort heard those words, born to those who have thrice defied him, born as the seventh month dies, he was hunting for a child that no prophecy had ever actually predicted? What if the entire foundation of the First Wizarding War was built on a misunderstanding, a miscalculation, a single choice that no one, except two people, ever saw coming? This is that story. This is the timeline where Lily Evans, the brightest witch of her generation, chose not the man who would become her husband in legend and memory, but the man who would have died for her. This is what happens when Severus Snape is not rejected, not spurned, not left alone in the cold. This is what the wizarding world becomes when Lily Potter never exists, because Lily Snape does instead. Part 1. The Beginning. September 1971. The Hogwarts Express is always the same. It arrives at platform 9 3/4 every 1st of September, with the kind of theatrical punctuality that only Dumbledore's Hogwarts can manage. First-year students board in a state of controlled chaos, some excited, some terrified, all of them utterly unprepared for what awaits them. Among them are two students who will never know, on this day, that their lives are about to become irrevocably entangled. Severus Snape boards with the kind of deliberation that suggests he's trying to take up as little space as possible. There's something in the way he moves, a wariness, a guardedness, that marks him as someone already bracing for conflict. His robes are slightly too large, slightly too worn. His black hair falls in front of his eyes like a curtain drawn against the world. He's 11 years old, and he already looks like he's fighting a war that hasn't been declared. He finds a compartment near the back of the train, away from the noise and the boisterous energy of other first years. He sits by the window and watches Diagon Alley disappear into the distance. At almost the exact same moment, Lily Evans boards with a completely different kind of energy. She's practically vibrating with anticipation. Her red hair is tied back neatly, her robes are perfectly pressed, and there's something fundamentally bright about her. Not just her coloring, but the way she carries herself, the way she moves through the world with curiosity and confidence. She's Muggle-born, and she's about to enter a world she's only read about in letters. She's 11, and she's ready to take it by storm. Lily moves through the corridors of the Hogwarts Express with purpose, peeking into compartments, looking for a group that seems friendly, welcoming. She finds a compartment with a girl who will become her best friend. But that's not our story. Or rather, it's not the part of our story that matters for this timeline. What matters is that, about 5 minutes later, Lily realizes she's forgotten her trunk in the first compartment she checked. She backtracks, moving through the crowd of students, and opens a door at random. "Sorry, is anyone sitting?" She starts, and then she sees him. Severus Snape looks up from his book, an advanced potions text, far beyond first-year curriculum. And for a moment, they simply look at each other. Lily sees a boy who looks like he's already decided the world is against him. Snape sees a girl who looks like she hasn't yet learned to be afraid. "There's space," Snape says quietly. And then, as if he's already regretting the admission of kindness, he adds, "If you want it." Lily sits down. They don't talk much during that first train ride, but there's something in the way Snape doesn't immediately return to his book. There's something in the way Lily asks him what the potions text is about, and he actually answers. There's something in the silences between them, not awkward, but thoughtful. Like they're both trying to figure out the same puzzle. By the time the train arrives at Hogsmeade Station, neither of them is quite sure what just happened, but something has shifted just slightly in both their internal universes. Then comes the sorting ceremony. Snape is called forward. The sorting hat barely touches his head before it shouts, "Slither in!" And the snake's table erupts. It's exactly where everyone expected him to go. There's something about Snape that screams Slytherin from the first moment you see him. Then Lily is called. She walks to the stool, and the sorting hat deliberates for longer than most. This surprises exactly no one who knows anything about how sorting works. Lily is clever, brilliantly so, and Slytherin would have welcomed her. But there's something else in her too. Courage, a fundamental refusal to be diminished. And finally, the hat makes its choice. Gryffindor! She walks to the Gryffindor table, and as she sits down, she glances back across the Great Hall. Snape is watching her. And when their eyes meet, he looks away almost immediately. But not before Lily sees something in his expression that she'll spend years trying to understand. Not friendliness exactly, but recognition. The years between. A montage of connection. The thing about Hogwarts is that it is, despite its size and its separation of houses, still a fundamentally small world. The library is the great equalizer, and it is in the library where Snape and Lily begin to develop a friendship that exists almost entirely outside the social structures that govern Hogwarts life. In first year, it's innocent. Lily, eager to learn, ventures into the restricted section under supervision and discovers that Snape, a Slytherin, a first year, technically forbidden to be there, has checked out nearly every advanced potions text available. She is impressed. He hesitantly explains the theory. She asks follow-up questions. He answers more readily. By second year, they have an understanding. They meet in the library after classes. Not always together, but often enough that it becomes habit. Snape teaches Lily about potions. Lily teaches Snape about the theoretical magic that underlies potion work. They're both alone in their respective houses. Snape ostracized by some, idolized by others, but never quite trusted. Lily brilliant but often isolated by the simple fact of being Muggle-born. Third year brings the first moment where it becomes something more than friendship, though neither of them names it as such. Lily is researching counter curses for a defense against the dark arts assignment when a group of older Slytherin students, including a young Lucius Malfoy, corner her in the restricted section. They're not violent, not quite, but they're threatening. They're taunting her about her blood status, testing the waters to see if she'll break. Snape finds them there by accident, or not by accident. Perhaps some part of him always knows where Lily is. He doesn't fight them. He's outnumbered. But his presence alone is enough. There's something in the way Malfoy looks at him, something that suggests that even now, at age 13, Snape is connected to something darker, something more powerful than teenage bullying. The students disperse. Malfoy leaves with a pointed comment about blood traitors, directed, it seems, at Snape. After they're gone, Lily thanks him. Snape tells her to stop coming to the restricted section alone. Lily asks why he cares. Snape doesn't answer. Fourth year is when things begin to shift more noticeably. Though to outside observers, nothing has changed. Snape and Lily are still students in different houses who occasionally study together, but the glances are longer. The conversations are deeper. There's an undercurrent of something unspoken. In the summer of 1975, after their fourth-year exams, James Potter decides to make his move. James has been watching Lily for years. He's clever, athletically gifted, and wealthy, a pureblood from an old family that fought against Voldemort. By fourth year, he's convinced himself that persistence equals romance. He intercepts Lily near the lake one afternoon in late June, after the other students have dispersed. "Lily," he says, and there's a confidence in his voice that borders on assumption. "I wanted to ask you something." Lily, who has seen this coming, braces herself. "Would you marry me?" James asks. "I mean, eventually?" "After Hogwarts, when we're older." It's the casual certainty of his tone that catches Lily off guard more than the question itself. He's not asking if she might consider it. He's asking when, not if. Lily struggles for words. "That's quite a question, James. But you haven't said no," James observes, and there's hope in his voice. "I haven't said yes either," Lily replies carefully. I need to think about it." James, interpreting this as an invitation rather than a postponement, nods happily. "Think away. But Lily, there's no one else in this school that makes more sense than you. You know that, right?" After he leaves, Lily sits by the lake for a long time. She hasn't told anyone about Snape. Not her best friend, not the other Gryffindors, no one. What would she say? That she spends hours talking to a Slytherin in the library? That there's a boy who reads like she does, who understands the way magic works at a fundamental level, who makes her feel less alone. That sometimes, when he looks at her, she feels seen in a way that terrifies and comforts her in equal measure. She doesn't know what it means yet. She only knows that the thought of committing to James Potter, of settling into what everyone expects of her, feels wrong. And the thought of a life without Snape in it feels like a tragedy. The turning point. 5th year, winter, 1975 to 1976. The atmosphere at Hogwarts in 1975 is heavy with tension. Voldemort's power is growing. Death Eaters are recruiting more openly. Parents are sending urgent letters about safety precautions. Teachers are speaking in lower voices. And in the dungeons, in the darker corners of the castle, young wizards are making choices that will echo through the rest of their lives. Lucius Malfoy has decided that Snape would make an excellent recruit. It's not a matter of force. Not yet. It's a matter of careful grooming. Malfoy knows Snape's history, knows that he's poor, knows that he lives in a place called Spinner's End in a Muggle neighborhood, knows that despite his brilliance, Snape has every reason to feel that the wizarding world is closed to him. Malfoy knows that Snape is lonely, and Malfoy has convinced himself that he can use that loneliness as a key. With the autumn of 1975, Malfoy and his friends begin to invite Snape to gatherings. Nothing serious at first. Just conversations, just discussions about the future, about power, about the way things should be. They flatter him. They tell him that his potential is wasted among people who don't understand him. They suggest that there are ways to gain power, to matter, to belong. And Snape, who has spent his entire life being made to feel that he matters to no one, begins to listen. By November, he started wearing robes that have a certain cut to them, robes that mark him as someone considering the darker paths. He's begun to distance himself from his conversations with Lily. He still meets her in the library, but there's a guardedness to him now, a tension that wasn't there before, Lily notices. She's too clever not to. In early December, during a late-night study session in the library, she finally asks him directly, "Severus, what's happening with you?" "Nothing," he says immediately, without looking up from his notes. "That's not true," Lily replies. "You're different. You're colder. And you're spending time with Malfoy and those people. I don't understand why." Snape sets down his quill with deliberate care. When he looks at her, there's something defensive in his expression, something almost angry. "You don't understand," he says quietly. "You who has everything handed to you. You don't understand why someone might want to find a place where they actually belong. Is that what you think they're offering you?" Lily asks, and there's a kind of desperation in her voice. "A place to belong? Severus, they don't care about you. They care about what you can do for them." "There's a difference." "Perhaps," Snape says coldly. "But at least they notice me." The words hang between them. "I notice you," Lily says softly. Snape closes his eyes for a moment, as if fighting something internal. "That's not the same thing. When this war escalates, and it will, what you've noticed about me won't matter. What will matter is power, and they can offer me that." He stands to leave, and Lily doesn't try to stop him. For the next 3 weeks, Snape actively avoids her. He sits with Malfoy in his circle. He attends gatherings in empty classrooms where the talk turns darker, where Death Eater ideology is discussed with increasing openness. Malfoy is practically celebrating. He's convinced Snape is nearly ready to take the mark, and Snape is terrified. Because here's the thing that no one outside of Snape's own head understands. He doesn't actually believe in any of it. He's not a convinced Death Eater ideologue. He's a lonely boy trying to find a place to belong, and he's made the mistake of believing that Malfoy's offers of power and recognition are genuine. But every time he sits in those circles, he thinks of Lily. He thinks of her asking him what he's doing. He thinks of her saying, "I notice you," and it eats at him. Then comes the incident that will change everything. It's the 3rd week of December, just before the Christmas holidays. A group of 7th-year students have gathered in one of the dungeons. Malfoy, Evan Rosier, Wilkes, and Snape, along with a few others. They're discussing recruitment, discussing who in their year shows promise, discussing power structures, and the conversation turns inevitably to Lily Evans. "She's clever," Malfoy says dismissively. "Muggle-born, though. Can't imagine why we're even having this conversation. Probably has connections," Rosier suggests. "Might be useful." And then Malfoy looks at Snape. "What do you think, Severus? Your friend the Mudblood, would she be useful to us?" "It's a test." Snape knows it's a test. The use of the word, the directness of the challenge, Malfoy is waiting to see what Snape will do. Will he defend her? Will he join in the mockery? Will he prove where his loyalties actually lie? And Snape, in a moment of cowardice that will haunt him for years, does the worst possible thing. He laughs. "She's just a mudblood," he says. and the words sound wrong in his own mouth, like they belong to someone else. Clever, but fundamentally insignificant. Malfoy smiles like he's won something. But Snape doesn't smile. He watches the other students laugh, and he feels something breaking inside him. This isn't who he wants to be. This isn't the person he wants to become. He spent the last months telling himself that he needs to find power, needs to find belonging. But now, in this moment, saying those words about Lily, he understands that it's not belonging he's found. It's just another form of loneliness. It's just the loneliness of becoming someone you don't recognize. The gathering breaks up. Students drift back to their common rooms. Snape sits alone in the dungeon for nearly an hour, simply staring at the stone walls. He knows, with absolute certainty, that Lily will hear about this. There are always people listening, always gossip traveling through the castle, and when she hears that he called her a mudblood, she will understand what he's become, or what he's trying to become. She will understand that he's chosen a path that leads away from her, and she will let him go. He's not prepared for what actually happens. The confrontation. The choice. Lily hears about it within 6 hours. A third-year girl who was passing through the dungeons happened to hear the conversation, and by dinner, half of Gryffindor knows that Snape has called her a mudblood. The news spreads with the kind of speed that gossip has in a school, simultaneously everywhere and nowhere, repeated and embellished until everyone has a slightly different version. She sits through dinner without eating, her mind racing. She feels betrayed, humiliated, and, worst of all, not particularly surprised. She'd suspected for weeks that Snape was drifting toward the darker elements of the school. She'd hoped she was wrong. She'd hoped he was stronger than the temptation. She'd been stupid enough to hope that whatever was growing between them was stronger than his need to belong. She was wrong. By evening, after dinner, she's made a decision. She doesn't seek Snape out in the library, doesn't wait for him to come to her. Instead, she intercepts him in one of the castle hallways, grabs his arm, and drags him into an empty classroom. "Did you?" she demands, not bothering with preamble. "Tell me you didn't." Snape's face goes white. "How did you—" "Everyone knows," Lily says, and her voice is shaking. "Which I suppose was the point, wasn't it? You wanted everyone to know that you've thrown in with them, that you've decided what you really think of me." "It's not," Snape starts. But Lily cuts him off. "You know what the worst part is?" she continues. "It's not that you said it. It's that I don't think you even believe it. I think you said it because you're so desperate to belong to something, to matter to someone, that you're willing to say anything. You're willing to become anyone. You're willing to destroy the one person who actually—" Her voice breaks. "The one person who actually sees you, Lily," Snape says, and his voice is desperate now, the facade of the cold Slytherin completely shattered. "I didn't mean it. I didn't—" "You didn't think?" Lily asks sharply. "Or you didn't care?" "I was trying," Snape struggles for words. "Malfoy was testing me. I thought if I didn't go along with it, if I defended you, he'd know he'd use it against me. He'd use it against you. And so you sacrificed me instead," Lily says coldly. "No," Snape says, and there's an intensity in his voice now that makes her stop. "I sacrificed myself. That's what I didn't understand until I heard myself say it. The moment I said those words, I became exactly what I didn't want to become. I became the kind of person who throws away the only thing that matters to me for the approval of people I don't even like." He takes a step toward her. "Lily, I have spent my entire life feeling like I didn't matter, like there was no place in the world where I belonged. And then I found the library, and I found you, and for the first time I didn't feel alone. I didn't feel like I had to become someone else to be worthy of notice." Lily is silent. "I know what I did," Snape continues. And now there's a kind of desperate clarity in his voice. "I know that I hurt you. I know that I betrayed your trust, and I know that I deserve for you to walk away and never speak to me again. But I'm asking you, I'm begging you, don't let me do this. Don't let me become what they want me to become. Because if you're not there, if I don't have something to hold on to that's good and true and real, then I will become everything I'm afraid I am." The vulnerability in his voice is almost unbearable. Lily has never heard Snape sound like this. Completely stripped of defenses, completely honest. And she realizes in that moment that this is the real choice, not the one between accepting him or rejecting him, but between allowing him to drown in darkness or throwing him a lifeline. "If you're asking me to save you," she says quietly, "you're asking the wrong person." Snape's face closes. "But," Lily continues, I will be there. I will be your reason not to drown. If you want that, if you're willing to actually choose it, instead of just talking about wanting to choose it. I choose it, Snape says immediately. I choose you. I choose this. I choose... He stops correcting himself. I'm going to Dumbledore. I'm going to tell him everything. About Malfoy, about the recruiting, about all of it. I'm going to get out of this, and I'm going to find another way. Dumbledore will protect you, Lily says quietly. He's known for a while that you're talented. He'll use you. I know, Snape says. But at least it will be a choice. My choice. Lily reaches out and takes his hand. Then we make it together. Whatever comes next. For a moment they simply stand there, in an empty classroom in Hogwarts Castle, two fifth-year students who have just made a choice that will reshape the entire course of their lives. The aftermath and the path forward. 1976 to 1978. After that night, everything changes and nothing changes. On the surface, life at Hogwarts continues as it always does. Students attend classes. The Quidditch season continues. House points are awarded and lost. But beneath the surface, there's a fundamental shift. Snape distances himself from Malfoy and his circle. And Malfoy, understanding exactly why, watches him with the kind of cold fury that suggests Snape has made a powerful enemy. But Snape no longer cares about Malfoy's approval. He doesn't care about belonging to that world. What he cares about is the library after hours. He cares about the stolen moments in the library, in empty classrooms, in the room of requirement once he figures out how to find it. He cares about Lily. Dumbledore, who misses very little that happens in his castle, approaches Snape in January of 6th year. The conversation is brief and to the point. I understand you have information, Dumbledore says quietly. Snape provides it. Names, dates, recruitment tactics, Death Eater ideology as it's being preached to younger students. And in return, Dumbledore asks, not unkindly. Protection, Snape says quietly. For myself. And for Lily Evans. Dumbledore's eyes, behind his half-moon spectacles, are infinitely sad. He understands in that moment exactly what Snape has become and what he will need to become. He sees the boy's love for Lily like a candle burning in the darkness, and he understands that it's probably the only thing that will keep Snape from being consumed by the darkness entirely. I can offer you both, Dumbledore says. But understand, Severus, that protection in times of war is not a guarantee. It's merely a promise to do what I can. I understand, Snape says. What Snape doesn't fully understand yet is that Dumbledore is already thinking ahead. He's already seeing the shape that the war will take, already understanding that spies will be necessary, already calculating the cost. Lily, in the meantime, has made her own choice. Through her connections. Her parents are both ministry employees, and her older sister is dating a young Auror. She's managed to make contact with the Order of the Phoenix. By 6th year, she's actively helping with safe house arrangements, carrying messages, doing small but important work for the Resistance. She and Snape don't talk about it directly. It's too dangerous. But they both understand the implicit bargain. They're both choosing to fight Voldemort, both choosing to work against him, both putting themselves at risk. The fact that they're doing it together, that they have this shared purpose, makes all the difference. 6th and 7th year pass in a blur of academic work and hidden moments. Snape and Lily graduate in the spring of 1978, both at the top of their class. Snape takes a position as a teacher at Hogwarts. Dumbledore has arranged this, understanding that Snape needs a position from which to observe and report on Death Eater activity among the students. Lily accepts a position with the Ministry that's actually a cover for her order work. In the summer of 1978, they marry. The ceremony is small and secret, held in a safe house with Dumbledore present as the only official witness. Lily's parents attend, but they're not ministry affiliated, so they can be kept somewhat separate from the official record. There's no great celebration, no announcement in the Daily Prophet. They're married and unmarried simultaneously, married in the eyes of those who matter, but carefully hidden from the world at large, because Voldemort cannot know. If Voldemort knows that Snape has married a Muggle-born witch, particularly one who's actively working against him, Snape's cover is blown. And Snape is too valuable as a spy for his cover to be blown. The Prophecy, October 1980. Time passes quickly in war. By 1980, Lily is pregnant. She and Snape have established a quiet residence near Hogsmeade, close enough to Hogwarts that Snape can maintain his teaching position, far enough away that they have some semblance of privacy. In August of 1980, their daughter is born. They name her Rose, a private joke between them, a reference to the willow tree where Snape first truly understood what love was. Snape, meanwhile, has become one of Dumbledore's most valuable spies. He's somehow managed to maintain the illusion that he's still considering joining the Death Eaters while actually feeding Dumbledore increasingly detailed intelligence about Voldemort's movements, his plans, his paranoia. It's a dangerous game. Snape is constantly afraid that his double life will be discovered, that Voldemort will realize that every piece of information he's gathered about Dumbledore's activities has somehow gotten back to the Order. But so far, he's survived. Then, in October of 1980, everything changes. Dumbledore comes to Snape with new information. A prophecy has been made. The exact nature of the prophecy is complex and multi-layered, but the essential point is clear. Somewhere, a child has been born, or is about to be born, to parents who have thrice defied Voldemort. Born in July, who may have the power to vanquish Voldemort. There are two possibilities, Dumbledore tells Snape quietly, in a room that they've ensured is warded against eavesdropping. James Potter and Lily Potter, if they have married and Lily has become pregnant. Or Neville Longbottom and his parents. They also fit the criteria. Snape's blood goes cold. Voldemort will have heard a version of this prophecy, Dumbledore continues. Or at least, the Death Eater who heard it will have reported it to him. He will be hunting for this child. And Severus, I need you to understand what this means. It means he'll be looking for Lily, Snape says quietly. It means he'll be looking for a child born to Lily Potter, by James Potter, in July of 1980. Dumbledore corrects gently. You and Lily were married in secret. No record of this exists in any place Voldemort has access to. To Voldemort, Lily is still a single woman. To Voldemort, any child she has is a bastard, or adopted, or non-existent. Rose, Snape breathes. Rose is your daughter with your wife, Dumbledore says carefully. Voldemort does not know your wife exists. He does not know you are married. And because of this, he does not know that Rose exists. As far as Voldemort is concerned, the prophecy is still about someone else's child, someone else's baby born in July. He might target Lily anyway, Snape says. If he realizes she's working for the Order, he might, Dumbledore agrees. But if he does, it won't be because of the prophecy, and you will be in a position to protect her. Snape understands what Dumbledore is saying. The prophecy that was supposed to be about James and Lily's child doesn't exist in this timeline, but Voldemort doesn't know that. Voldemort will be hunting for a baby that was never born, will waste time and resources searching for a child that exists only in his own fears and misunderstandings. And in the chaos of that hunting, in the confusion of a prophecy that makes no sense, the real war will be fought. It's a strange kind of advantage, built entirely on a secret, but it's an advantage nonetheless. The confusion begins. October 1980 to July 1981. The months following the prophecy are strange ones in the wizarding world. There's a heightened sense of anticipation, of waiting, of something fundamental about to shift. Voldemort's followers are energized by the revelation that a child who might be their master's downfall has been born, or will be born soon. Dumbledore's Order is equally focused, trying to piece together who the child actually is, where they might be, how best to protect them. But the very clarity of the prophecy's language, born as the seventh month dies, born to those who have thrice defied him, creates a specific expectation. Everyone is waiting for July. Everyone is watching James Potter, and any woman he might marry. This is where Voldemort makes his first critical error. Because everyone is so focused on July, so certain that the prophecy child will be born in July 1980 or July 1981, no one actually anticipates that the child might have been born in August. No one realizes that Rose Snape was born in August 1979, and is now almost 2 years old, sleeping in a cot in a house near Hogsmeade, while her parents attempt to maintain double lives that are becoming increasingly difficult to sustain. Snape's position as a Hogwarts professor is now his most valuable asset and his greatest liability. On one hand, it gives him legitimacy, access, a reason to be in Dumbledore's company. On the other hand, it means he must maintain the pretense of being a loyal Death Eater, or at least ambivalent toward the war. He must teach students who include the children of Death Eaters, must maintain their trust while actively working against their parents. It's an impossible balance, and the strain of it is beginning to show. Lily, meanwhile, is working deeper into Order operations. With Rose to care for, she's taken on more intelligence work and less active field work, a decision that both comforts and terrifies her. She's becoming known in certain circles as a brilliant analyst, someone who can piece together information and see patterns that others miss. But she's also becoming increasingly visible, which means increasingly vulnerable. By early 1981, the prophecy situation still hasn't resolved itself in Voldemort's mind. No child has appeared publicly. No James Lily child has been announced. And yet the prophecy clearly predicted one. This is where Voldemort's paranoia becomes dangerous. If the prophecy foretold a child born to parents who thrice defied Voldemort, and yet no such child has been publicly born, then perhaps the child is being hidden. Perhaps it's being kept secret, or perhaps, and this is the thought that truly begins to consume Voldemort, perhaps the prophecy is more obscure than he's been led to understand. Perhaps the child has already been born and is currently unnoticed by the world. Voldemort begins to reconsider. The prophecy specified July. But Sybil Trelawney's exact words are crucial. Born as the 7th month dies. Does that mean born at the very end of July? Or could it mean born as July transitions to August? Could it mean born during the last days of July or the first days of August? The more Voldemort thinks about this, the more convinced he becomes that he's being hunted already. That the child who will be his downfall is already alive, already being protected, already learning magic. His response is twofold. First, he increases his direct intelligence gathering operations. He sends Death Eaters to interview Trelawney again, demanding that she clarify the prophecy. Trelawney, terrified and having given birth to a child of her own, not through prophecy but through ordinary circumstances, can provide no additional clarity. The prophecy has faded from her mind, as prophecies often do, leaving only the words she spoke while in trance. Second, and more dangerously, Voldemort decides to take action. If the child exists and is being hidden, then removing potential protectors might force the child into the open. If the child exists and has parents who thrice defied Voldemort, then those parents are probably active in the Order of the Phoenix. Eliminating them would not only remove threats to Voldemort's power, but might also drive the child, desperate, orphaned, angry, into revealing themselves. It's a twisted logic, but it makes a kind of sense in Voldemort's mind. And by late spring of 1981, Voldemort begins to give his Death Eaters increasingly specific orders, identify all witches and wizards who fit the criteria of thrice defied Voldemort, and eliminate them one by one. The pressure mounts. Summer 1981. Snape has never been more afraid. On the one hand, he's receiving increasingly detailed intelligence from Voldemort about targets. On the other hand, he's passing this intelligence directly to Dumbledore, which means watching Order members scatter, watching safe houses be abandoned, watching people he's come to respect flee for their lives. But what terrifies him most is the intelligence that never makes it to Dumbledore. The conversations that happen when Snape isn't present. The plans that are formed in rooms where he's excluded because Voldemort is becoming suspicious of his own inner circle, beginning to wonder if there's a traitor in his midst. And Snape, despite his careful work over the past years, has begun to feel the pressure of that suspicion. In June 1981, Voldemort summons Snape directly. It's the first time in months that Snape has been alone with the Dark Lord, and his heart is hammering so badly that he's terrified Voldemort will hear it. But Voldemort, consumed by his own thoughts, barely seems to notice Snape's presence. The prophecy, Voldemort says, more to himself than to Snape. The child is hiding. They must be. And yet James Potter makes no announcement. He has no wife, no pregnant woman acknowledged in any social sphere, which means either the prophecy is not about James Potter, or he pauses, and Snape forces himself to remain perfectly still. Or, Voldemort continues, the child belongs to a different parent entirely, one we have not yet identified. Tell me, Severus, in your teaching, in your observation of Hogwarts, have you noticed any young witches recently who seem to be pregnant? Any of my followers whose wives or daughters are carrying? Snape's mind races. This is the moment where everything could unravel. One wrong answer, one hesitation, and Voldemort might suspect him. No, my lord, Snape says calmly, though it would be unusual for such information to be common knowledge. Pregnancies are often kept private, particularly among Order families. Precisely, Voldemort says, and there's a kind of feverish intensity in his eyes, which is why we must assume the child exists and is being hidden. And if the child is being hidden, then the child's parents are almost certainly known to us. They're people we've had reason to watch, reason to suspect. He stands, pacing back and forth. I want you to focus your efforts on one specific task, Voldemort says. Infiltrate the Order's network through your position at Hogwarts. Discover who among them has recently had children. Discover who might be hiding a young child, not yet school age, but alive. Yes, my lord, Snape says, and inside his chest, his heart is breaking. Because he knows, with absolute certainty, that Voldemort will eventually discover Rose. There's no way to keep a child hidden forever, particularly not a child with red hair and her mother's brilliant eyes and her father's sharp features, distinctively the child of two specific people. It's only a matter of time. Snape leaves Voldemort's presence and immediately sends a Patronus to Dumbledore. The message is brief. The child must be moved. By the next day, Dumbledore has made arrangements. Rose is moved to a safe house in Scotland, with a trusted Order family who will care for her while Snape and Lily maintain their cover. It breaks both of their hearts. Snape has barely had time to know his daughter, and Lily must give up the daily work of being a mother. But the alternative is worse. The alternative is Voldemort discovering Rose and using her as a lever to force Snape to betray Dumbledore, or worse, as a hostage to hold over Snape's head. Lily goes with Rose to the Scottish safe house. She tells the Order that she's been reassigned, that she'll be continuing her work remotely. But what she's really doing is being a mother to her daughter, for what might be the last time before Voldemort either wins or falls. The misalleging July approaches. Something strange happens in the wizarding world. The tension, which has been building for months, begins to shift. Voldemort has clearly been expecting something to occur in July, some manifestation of the prophecy, some emergence of the child he believes exists. But July passes, and nothing happens. No child is revealed. No sudden shift in the balance of power. James Potter remains single and childless. No other parents of three-time defiers announce pregnancies or births. For those in Dumbledore's circle, July passing without incident is a relief, but for Voldemort, it's something else entirely. It's a confirmation of his growing suspicion. The child already exists and is being hidden. And now, having come to this conclusion, Voldemort makes his second critical error. He decides to eliminate his enemies preemptively. If he can't find the child who will be his downfall, then perhaps he can find the child's parents. And if the child's parents are among those who thrice defied him, then eliminating all such parents might force the child into the open, or might simply remove the child's protectors, leaving them vulnerable. By late July 1981, Voldemort begins giving orders for targeted assassinations. James Potter is among the first targets identified, though not for the reason Voldemort initially suspected. James Potter is a prominent Order member, has thrice defied Voldemort's forces, and is, despite his lack of wife or child, connected to prophecy through his long-standing claim on Lily Evans. If Lily is the mother of the prophecy child, with a different father, then perhaps destroying James is the first step in a larger strategy. This is where the timeline fractures into multiple possibilities. The branching. What happens to James Potter? Here's where we need to stop for a moment and really think about the implications of this timeline. In the original universe, in the canon we know, James and Lily Potter are killed on October 31st, 1981, by Voldemort himself. After Peter Pettigrew betrays their location, the prophecy causes Voldemort to hunt them specifically. And when he kills them, he attempts to kill baby Harry. And that's when the prophecy's power, the power of Lily's sacrificial love, protects Harry and destroys Voldemort. But in this timeline, there is no James Lily child. There is no prophecy that directly targets James and Lily, because Voldemort still believes the child belongs to someone else. So what happens to James? Possibility 1. James dies earlier, to a different Death Eater. If Voldemort is ordering targeted assassinations of those who thrice defied him, James might be killed by Voldemort's forces at any point in summer 1981. He might be killed in a raid on an Order safe house. He might be killed in a direct confrontation with Death Eaters. He might be killed at home, or while traveling, or in any number of ways. In this possibility, James dies alone, or with other Order members, but not as a result of a specific prophecy. He dies as a casualty of war. Tragic, but not the pivotal moment that his death is in canon. Possibility 2. James survives longer. Alternatively, James might survive the war. With no prophecy specifically targeting him and Lily as a couple, with no clear reason for Voldemort to prioritize him above all other Order members, James might actually make it through 1981 alive. He might survive the war, become a member of the post-war government, have a different life entirely. Possibility 3. James is captured and interrogated. Or James might be captured by Voldemort's forces, interrogated about the prophecy child, tortured for information about where the child might be kept. In this scenario, James would know nothing useful, because he's not connected to the prophecy child. But Voldemort wouldn't believe him. James would die under interrogation, and his death would provide no information that helps Voldemort. Our choice for this timeline, we're going to follow possibility 1 with a twist. James will be killed by Voldemort's forces in late August 1981, not specifically because of the prophecy, but because he's an active Order member who's made himself visible. But his death will happen in a way that's separate from Lily, and it will have different consequences than his canonical death. James Potter's last stand. August 1981. In the first week of August 1981, James is at an Order safe house in Godwin's Hollow, the village where he and his parents have a family home. He's been meeting with other Order members about a possible direct action against a Death Eater recruitment center. He's been in high spirits, energized by the possibility of striking back against Voldemort's forces. He doesn't know that the safe house has been compromised. Lucius Malfoy has learned of the meeting location through one of his intelligence networks. Voldemort has given clear orders: identify and eliminate prominent Order members. Malfoy sees an opportunity to gain favor with the Dark Lord by eliminating James Potter in a direct assault. The attack comes at dawn. Malfoy leads a team of 6 Death Eaters against the safe house. The Order members inside are caught off guard. They've let their vigilance slip slightly, believing the safe house to be secure. James Potter fights with everything he has. He's a brilliant wizard, a powerful duelist, and he has a lifetime of magical training. But he's also alone. Most of the other Order members escape through a pre-arranged portkey, facing 6 Death Eaters at once. It's not a fair fight. He dies the way he lived, fighting, defiant, refusing to yield. Malfoy's killing curse finds him at sunrise, as light is beginning to break through the windows of the safe house. James falls, and his body is left in the wreckage of the house. By the time Order members return to secure the location, James is already dead. And more importantly, to anyone looking at the body, it's clear that James died as a soldier in a war, not as the victim of a prophecy, not as the father of a mystical child. He died as himself, not as a plot point in a larger story. Snape hears about James's death within hours. It comes through the Death Eater networks, reported as a victory. Lucius is already bragging about how he took down one of Dumbledore's most valued lieutenants. Snape's first emotion is not sadness, it's relief. And that realization shames him. He's relieved that James is dead, that James will never marry Lily, that there's no possibility now of James ever learning that Snape and Lily are together. And then, following quickly on that relief, comes guilt. He sends word to Dumbledore: Potter is dead, safe house at Godwin's Hollow compromised. Casualties minimal, most Order members escaped. And then, unable to stop himself, is Lily safe? Dumbledore's response comes that evening: Lily and Rose are secure. Remain in position. Events are accelerating. The search intensifies. August to September 1981. With James dead and the prophecy child still undiscovered, Voldemort's frustration grows. He's eliminated one of Dumbledore's key lieutenants, but it hasn't brought him any closer to finding the child. So he does what cornered predators do. He escalates. By mid-August, Voldemort has given explicit orders for Death Eaters to identify and capture any young children born to Order members, born to those who thrice defied him. If the prophecy child cannot be found, then perhaps the child can be flushed out by threatening others. This is a desperately dangerous strategy, but it's also, in its way, logical. Voldemort is operating with incomplete information and a prophecy that doesn't seem to match reality. He's acting like a man trying to solve a puzzle where half the pieces are missing. Dumbledore, in response, orders a complete dispersal of Order families with young children. Every child under school age is moved to a prepared location, hidden behind layers of protective magic and secrecy. The locations are kept even from most Order members, known only to Dumbledore and a few trusted lieutenants. Rose, in her safe house in Scotland, is moved again, this time to a location that's so thoroughly warded against magical detection that even if someone knew where to start looking, they wouldn't be able to find her. Snape doesn't know where Rose is anymore. This is deliberate. Dumbledore has made the decision that it's safer if Snape doesn't know, that if Voldemort tortures Snape or uses legilimency on him, Snape won't be able to reveal Rose's location. Snape understands the logic, but it breaks something inside him nonetheless. He's now a man separated from both his wife and his daughter, living a lie every single day, pretending to be a Death Eater, while actually spying for the Order, unable to show affection or fear or any emotion that would give him away. Meanwhile, Lily is living as a fugitive, in hiding with her daughter, unable to leave the safe house, unable to contact anyone from her previous life, unable to know if Snape is alive or dead or captured. It's the cruelest form of torture, and it's self-imposed through their own choices and commitments. Voldemort's final miscalculation. September 1981. By September, Voldemort has come to a realization that is, in its own way, accurate. There is a child born to parents who fit the prophecy's description. But the child is not James and Lily's, and Voldemort begins to focus his attention on the only other candidates, the Longbottoms. Frank and Alice Longbottom have thrice defied Voldemort. They have a son, Neville, born in July 1980, right in the window the prophecy specified. And most importantly, they fit the profile of people who would hide a prophecy child. Voldemort begins to focus his forces on the Longbottoms. This is where the timeline begins to seriously diverge from canon, because in this universe, Voldemort is no longer certain about hunting James and Lily. He still wants them dead, their Order members, their threats, but he's no longer convinced that they're the parents of the prophecy child. But then, in late September, Snape receives a new order from Voldemort. "Bring me information on the Potter residence at Godwin's Hollow," Voldemort commands. "I want to know who visits, when they visit, what they do there. I want complete surveillance." Snape's blood goes cold. The Potter residence, the family home, has been left empty since James's death. It's a known location that Order members might use as a meeting place or safe house. "My lord," Snape asks carefully, "what is the purpose of this surveillance?" "The prophecy," Voldemort says. And there's something in his voice that suggests he's obsessed, that he's thought about this endlessly. "The prophecy mentions born to those who have thrice defied me. James Potter thrice defied me, so did Lily Evans. I no longer believe the child is theirs. But I believe the child might be hidden in places connected to them. I believe that Order members might lead me to the child." "Understood, my lord," Snape says. But what Snape understands is this. Voldemort is now convinced that the prophecy child exists, is in hiding, and might be connected to safe houses or locations used by the Order. And if Voldemort sends Death Eaters to surveil Godwin's Hollow, they might expand their search to other locations, other safe houses, other places where Order families might be hiding. Snape sends an urgent message to Dumbledore. "Dark Lord searching for prophecy child. Expanding operations to known Order locations. Recommend immediate evacuation of all safe houses." Dumbledore's response is immediate. "Agreed. Beginning full dispersal. Remain in place. Do not raise suspicion." And then, after a pause, "Severus, understand this. What is coming may be the final confrontation. Prepare yourself." The calm before the storm. Late September 1981. For 2 weeks, there's an eerie silence. Snape continues to teach at Hogwarts. He responds to his students' questions about advanced potions. He grades essays. He maintains the facade of being a professor who is vaguely interested in Order activities but not directly involved. But underneath, everything is tense. Voldemort's Death Eaters are conducting raids on suspected Order locations. Some of these raids result in casualties. Some result in empty safe houses. A few result in Order members being captured and interrogated. But none of them result in finding the prophecy child, because the prophecy child doesn't exist in the way Voldemort believes. The Longbottoms come under direct threat. Voldemort becomes convinced that Neville might be the child. Frank and Alice Longbottom are captured, tortured, and eventually their minds are shattered beyond recovery. They're left alive but broken, committed to St. Mungo's Hospital for Magical Maladies and Injuries. Neville, however, survives. He's taken in by his grandmother. And still, Voldemort doesn't have the prophecy child. By late September, Voldemort is practically frantic. The prophecy has consumed him. He's convinced that somewhere, hidden away, is a child who will be his downfall. And he's also convinced that if he can find that child before they come of age, before they reach Hogwarts, before they begin their magical training, he can eliminate them. So he makes his final decision. He decides to strike directly at those he knows have thrice defied him. He decides that if he can't find the prophecy child by searching, he'll force the child to reveal itself by threatening the most valuable people in the Order. His targets are specific and deliberate. 1. Dumbledore. Already protected by layers of magic and too powerful to be easily killed, but worth trying. 2. Lily Evans, now Potter in name only, but Voldemort doesn't know about her marriage to Snape. She's thrice defied him, she's brilliant, and she's connected to James Potter. If she's hidden the prophecy child, threatening her might force her to act. 3. Sirius Black, a long-standing opponent, a powerful wizard, thrice defied Voldemort. And perhaps more importantly, someone who might know where the prophecy child is hidden. And so, in the last days of September 1981, Voldemort begins the operation that will define everything that comes next. He orders Death Eaters to begin preparing for specific assassinations. He tells his followers, "Find Lily Evans, find Sirius Black, find any Order member who has thrice defied me, and take them. Alive if possible, dead if necessary, but find them." And he makes a decision that will echo through the rest of this timeline. He decides to personally hunt Lily Evans, because if anyone knows where the prophecy child is hidden, if anyone is protecting a child that will be his downfall, Voldemort is certain it will be Lily. Snape's crisis. Late September 1981. Snape learns about Voldemort's hunt for Lily in the most ordinary of circumstances, which is the way the most devastating information always arrives. He's walking through the corridor near the dungeons on a Thursday evening, carrying a stack of essays that need marking, when he hears two voices coming from a classroom that should be empty. The voices belong to Lucius Malfoy and Antonin Dolohov, both of whom have children at Hogwarts and use the castle's empty classrooms for clandestine Death Eater meetings. Snape stops, unable to help himself, and listens. "The Dark Lord has become obsessed," Malfoy is saying, his voice carrying that particular tone of amused contempt he reserves for describing Voldemort's moods. He's convinced that Lily Evans holds the key to finding the prophecy child. He believes she's hidden it, protected it, that she knows exactly where it is. "She's a Mudblood researcher," Dolohov replies. "Hardly impressive enough to warrant personal attention from the Dark Lord, which is why he's going to hunt her personally. He's decided that if she won't reveal the child's location through interrogation, then perhaps she'll reveal it through desperation. He means to give her a choice: surrender the child, or watch everyone she cares about die." The essays slip from his fingers, scattering across the stone floor with a sound like thunder in his own ears. He continues walking, forcing himself to move at normal pace, forcing himself not to run, but inside his chest, something is shattering. For months, years even, he's maintained the fiction that his spy work is separate from his personal life, that his love for Lily can coexist with his role as Voldemort's trusted lieutenant. He's told himself that as long as he provides information, as long as he maintains his cover, Dumbledore will protect Lily. But Voldemort doesn't work that way. Voldemort doesn't negotiate with protection. Voldemort doesn't compromise. If Voldemort has decided that Lily is important enough to hunt personally, then Lily is in danger in a way that no amount of careful spy work can mitigate. That night, Snape doesn't sleep. He sits in his quarters in the dungeons, surrounded by candles, thinking about his daughter. Rose would be nearly 2 years old now. She would have learned to walk. She would have a personality, preferences, favorite foods, favorite people. She would recognize her mother's voice and reach for her when she was frightened. She would have learned to laugh. And Snape knows nothing about her. Dumbledore has kept Rose's location secret from him deliberately, has explained that it's safer if he doesn't know, that Voldemort's legilimency can't extract information he doesn't possess. Snape understands the logic. He hates it with an intensity that borders on madness. He doesn't know if his daughter has red hair or black hair. He doesn't know if she has Lily's bright green eyes or his darker ones. He doesn't know if she's precocious or slow to develop. He doesn't know anything except that her existence has made his entire life simultaneously more bearable and more unbearable than it ever was before. And now Voldemort is hunting for her mother. By dawn, Snape has made a decision. If Voldemort won't be stopped through espionage, then espionage will have to change. He will do whatever it takes. Break his cover if necessary. Abandon his double life. Fight openly if that's what it takes. But he won't allow Lily to die because he was too committed to a role. The first test early October 1984. 3 days after overhearing the Death Eaters, Snape receives a summons. It arrives not as an Owlpost letter but as a dark mark burning on his left arm. A signal that can mean only one thing. Snape uses a portkey to arrive at a house in London, one of many Death Eater safe houses scattered throughout the country, each one protected by wards that would take a skilled wizard hours to penetrate. This one is in a quiet Muggle neighborhood, Nothing marks it as significant except the obsidian door and the serpent-shaped door knocker that hisses when he approaches. Inside, the house is oppressive. The furniture is dark wood, heavy and angular. The walls are covered in black silk that seems to absorb light, and in the drawing room Snape finds Voldemort with a dozen of his most trusted followers: Lucius Malfoy, Bellatrix Lestrange, Rodolphus Lestrange, Peter Pettigrew, and others whose names Snape has learned to fear over the years. A massive map is spread across an ebony table, marked with pins and notations in what appears to be Voldemort's own handwriting. The map shows England, Scotland, Wales, and Ireland, with certain locations highlighted in red. Severus, Voldemort says, and the way he says the name, soft, almost conversational, suggests that this is not casual. This is something Voldemort has been planning. I have a task that requires your particular skills. I am at your service, my lord, Snape says, and he bows slightly, the gesture automatic after years of practice. Lily Evans, Voldemort says, pointing to the map. The red dots seem to cluster most heavily in Scotland and the Welsh border country. She's become something of a ghost, haven't you noticed? Once a prominent Order member, now seemingly vanished from any location we can identify. I believe she's been taken into protective custody. Hidden? Protected? It's possible, my lord, Snape says carefully. His mind is racing, trying to anticipate where this is going. More than possible, Voldemort says. I'm certain of it. And I need someone to find her. Someone the Order has no reason to suspect of betrayal. Someone who might have been connected to her in the past, who might have access to information about her habits, her preferences, her hiding places. The implications of what Voldemort is suggesting crash down on Snape like a physical force. Voldemort is asking him to use his connection to Lily, the connection that Voldemort believes to be nothing more than an old-school acquaintance, to locate her. I will find her, my lord, Snape says, and he forces his voice to remain steady, even as the lie tastes like poison in his mouth. Good, Voldemort says, and he smiles. It's a smile that contains no warmth whatsoever. I thought you might say that. You see, Severus, I have been watching you, watching how diligently you serve, watching how you have climbed through the ranks of my organization, and I have come to believe that you might be capable of something most of my followers are not. You might be capable of genuine success, of finding what others cannot. He moves closer to Snape, and the dark eyes that stare at him are hypnotic, terrible, almost reptilian in their absolute lack of humanity. Find Lily Evans for me, Voldemort continues. Find her, and bring me information about her location, her protectors, her defenses, and in return, I will reward you with power beyond your current comprehension. You will sit at my right hand. You will be honored above all other followers. Thank you, my lord, Snape says, and he means it, because the promise of power is real. Voldemort never lies about such things, never makes promises he doesn't intend to keep, and that makes this moment infinitely more terrible, because Snape is about to disappoint his master in ways that might result in his own death. Begin immediately, Voldemort says. You have until the end of October. After that, I will take matters into my own hands. Dumbledore's Gambit, mid-October, 1981. That evening, Snape risks everything by breaking protocol. He arranges a meeting with Dumbledore not through the usual channels, not through carefully orchestrated accidents or chance encounters, but through a direct, magical message. He uses a Patronus charm, something he rarely does because the memory required to create one is so painful that he typically avoids it, and sends a silver doe racing through the castle after hours. The Patronus carries a simple message. Urgent. Safe House Manchester. Tonight. 2 hours later, Snape is sitting across from Dumbledore in a dingy Muggle boarding house that smells of boiled cabbage and industrial cleaning solvents. It's the kind of place no wizard would ever think to look for anyone, which is precisely why Dumbledore would choose it. Voldemort has ordered me to find Lily, Snape says without preamble. He's given me until the end of October. After that, he'll move against her personally. Dumbledore doesn't look particularly surprised by this information. He simply nods, as though this confirms something he's already suspected. What did you tell him? That I would begin the search immediately, Snape says. But Albus, I won't actually be able to find her. I don't know where she is. You've made certain of that. Because if Voldemort uses legilimency on you, he cannot extract information you don't possess, Dumbledore says. However, this presents us with a problem and an opportunity. Severus, sit down. There are things you need to understand about what's about to happen. Snape sits. Dumbledore reaches into his robes and withdraws a small glass vial containing silver mist. a memory. This is Sybil Trelawney's prophecy, preserved exactly as she gave it. In my years of study, I have come to understand prophecies in ways that few wizards ever do. The key to understanding any prophecy is understanding what it does not say. What do you mean? Snape asks. The prophecy speaks of a child born to parents who have thrice defied Voldemort, born in July, marked as Voldemort's equal. Dumbledore says, Voldemort has been searching for this child for almost a year. And in his searching he has come to a terrible realization. The child does not appear to exist. Because Lily and I had Rose in August, Snape says quietly. Precisely, Dumbledore says. But Voldemort cannot accept this. His mind cannot accommodate the possibility that the prophecy might not apply to anyone currently alive. So instead, he has constructed an elaborate narrative where the child exists but is hidden, where clever Order members are protecting it. And because he has constructed this narrative, he is now hunting for something that only exists in his own imagination.
So what you're saying is…
Snape begins. What I'm saying, Dumbledore interrupts gently, is that Voldemort is hunting a phantom, and we can use that phantom against him. Severus, I'm going to ask you to do something that will require you to betray me while serving me. I'm going to ask you to search for Lily. I'm going to ask you to report false locations to Voldemort. I'm going to ask you to participate, actively, in what you believe to be a hunt for a woman you love. No, Snape says immediately. I won't do it. I won't. You will, Dumbledore says, and his voice carries an authority that brooks no argument. Because if you don't, Voldemort will become suspicious. He'll realize that his hunt is futile. He'll stop searching for a phantom and start searching for the truth. And the truth, Severus, is that there is a prophecy child who has already defeated him, except there isn't one. The truth is confusion. The truth is that Voldemort's entire strategic framework is built on a misunderstanding. And so you want me to keep him hunting, Snape says bitterly. To keep him always one step behind, always believing he's close. I want you to keep him in motion, Dumbledore says. Because a Voldemort who is thinking clearly, who is analyzing his situation rationally, is far more dangerous than a Voldemort who is obsessed, frustrated, and about to make a critical mistake. I need him to move directly against Lily. I need him to make an open attack on an Order location. And I need you to be the instrument through which that attack is facilitated. You're going to let him find her, Snape says, understanding beginning to dawn. No, Dumbledore says. But I'm going to allow him to believe he's about to find her. That distinction is crucial. Severus, I cannot protect Lily from Voldemort if Voldemort doesn't know she exists. But if Voldemort moves against her openly, if he commits his resources to hunting her directly, then I can respond. Then I can set a trap. But the bait has to be real. The hunt has to feel real. And you have to be completely, genuinely, honestly participating in that hunt, even though you know it's false. The hunt begins. Mid to late October 1981. For the next 2 weeks, Snape lives a life that feels like drowning in slow motion. He travels to Scotland on Hogsmeade weekends, using his position as a Hogwarts professor to justify his absences. He searches through supposedly abandoned cottages and desolate houses, real locations where Order members have actually stayed at some point. Places where traces of magical activity might still linger. He finds these traces, examines them, and reports them to Voldemort with the careful precision of a scientist. This location has been occupied within the past 3 weeks, my lord, he reports. I found evidence of tea brewing, recent fires in the hearth, toys scattered in one of the bedrooms. A child has been kept here. The mention of the child is deliberately inflammatory. Snape knows exactly what buttons to push to keep Voldemort's attention focused on the hunt, to maintain the illusion that the prophecy child is within reach. Each false location Snape reports sends Death Eaters racing to the spot, searching frantically for Lily and whatever child Snape has led them to believe she's protecting. And each time they arrive, they find nothing but cold fireplaces and empty rooms, and the lingering magical traces of Order members who left days, sometimes weeks ago. Voldemort becomes increasingly convinced that Snape is on the verge of success. He praises him. He tells him he's becoming indispensable. He hints at dark secrets, at power Snape has never imagined, at rewards that will come when the hunt is complete. And with each praise, with each token of Voldemort's favor, Snape feels himself fracturing, because he's not actually hunting a phantom. He's actively, deliberately, with full knowledge and intent, participating in the hunt for the woman he loves. Every false location he reports brings Voldemort closer to understanding the truth about the prophecy. Every day that passes brings them closer to the end of October, the deadline Voldemort gave him. By mid-October, Snape has stopped eating properly. He teaches his potions classes with a kind of mechanical precision, his mind elsewhere, his voice sharp with an anger that has nowhere else to go. His students, even the Slytherins, even the ones who admire him, begin to notice that something is wrong. Professor Snape is becoming increasingly unstable. One afternoon, a student makes the mistake of asking a reasonable question about the preparation of a strengthening solution. Snape's response is so viciously cutting, so disproportionate to the minor error, that the student flees the classroom in tears. Afterwards, alone in his office, Snape sits in the darkness and realizes that he's beginning to lose control of the performance. The line between Severus Snape the spy and Severus Snape the man is becoming impossible to maintain. The breaking point. Late October 1981. On October 24th, 3 days before his deadline expires, Snape is summoned to Voldemort once more. This time the meeting takes place in Godwin's Hollow, in the abandoned Potter family home. The house is exactly as it was left after James's death. Dust on the furniture, a strange sense of interrupted life hanging over everything. Voldemort is standing in the drawing room, looking out the window at the gardens where James played as a child. "Your search has been thorough," Voldemort says without turning around. "You've given me 15 locations. You've provided detailed information about magical traces, about recent occupation, about the presence of children. And yet, Severus, each location has been empty when my followers arrived. How do you explain this?" Snape's heart stops. This is the moment where everything could collapse. This is the moment where Voldemort might decide that the hunt is false, that Snape has been deceiving him all along. "The Order has learned to move quickly, my lord," Snape says carefully. "Each time we identify a location, they evacuate before we can arrive. It's as though they know our movements." "Indeed," Voldemort says, and there's something almost thoughtful in his voice. "Which is why I've decided to change tactics. I no longer believe that hunting for Lily Evans is the correct approach. Instead, I'm going to make her come to me. I'm going to give her a choice, and I'm going to make that choice public enough that she cannot ignore it." "My lord, I don't understand," Snape says. "Of course you don't," Voldemort says. He finally turns around, and his red eyes meet Snape's. "But you will help me. You will tell me everything you know about Lily Evans, her personality, her fears, her loves, her weaknesses, everything. And then you will help me set the stage for her grand appearance, the final preparation." October 29/31, 1981. On October 29th, Snape receives his final orders from Voldemort. "Come to Godwin's Hollow on October 31st at noon. Come alone. The trap for Lily is being set, and Voldemort wants Snape to be present for it." Snape understands what's about to happen. Voldemort is about to move directly. The hunt through false locations is over. Now begins the open conflict. That evening, Snape performs an action that should be impossible. He breaks through Dumbledore's protective wards using a combination of knowledge, desperation, and love. He finds Lily not through information, but through instinct, following threads of magical resonance that only someone who shares blood and intention with her could possibly trace. The cottage appears empty at first, but Snape knows where to look. He finds them in a small room at the back of the house, hidden behind charms so powerful that even his own magical signature should have triggered an alarm. Lily is sitting at a wooden table, checking a wand. Rose is beside her, playing with wooden blocks that have been painted with protective runes. "Severus?" Lily says, standing immediately. "What are you doing here?" Dumbledore said. "Voldemort is coming," Snape says. The words come out flat, final. October 31st, this location. He's going to move against you directly. Lily goes very still. Rose looks up from her toys, sensing her mother's fear. "How does he know where we are?" Lily asks. "He doesn't," Snape says. "Not yet, but I've been leading him here. I've been conducting false searches for weeks, and with each false location, I've been narrowing the possibilities. It was a game, part of a larger strategy, but the strategy ends today. By tonight, Voldemort will have enough information to locate this place. Then we run," Lily says immediately. She moves toward Rose. "We pack what we can, and we run. We go to another safe house, another location. There is nowhere left to run," Snape says. "Voldemort has people everywhere. Every safe house is compromised, or will be soon, and if you run, he'll hunt you forever. He'll never stop. But if you stand and fight, I'm not a fighter, Lily says. Severus, I'm a researcher. I'm a theorist. I'm not trained for combat. I'm not— You're brilliant, Snape says. He moves closer to her, takes both her hands in his. You're the most brilliant person I've ever known. And you're fierce. You're capable of extraordinary things when you're backed into a corner. I know this about you because I've watched you do it. And I know that when faced with a choice between surrender and fighting, you will fight. Lily looks at him for a long moment. Then she nods. Take her, Lily says, gesturing to Rose. When the time comes, take her and run. Find a way out of the cottage. Don't look back. Don't come for me. You understand? I won't leave you, Snape says. You will, Lily says firmly. Because if you don't, then Rose loses both of us. If you do, then at least one of us survives. At least one of us might find her again later. Snape picks up his daughter, feeling her weight, her warmth, the reality of her existence in his arms for perhaps the last time. And he knows that Lily is right. The Arrival. October 31st, 1981. Midday. Voldemort arrives at Godwin's Hollow at precisely noon. He doesn't come alone, though. He arrives first. Behind him, visible only to those who know how to look, comes a contingent of his most trusted Death Eaters. They materialize from the apparition point near the village, like shadows given form, their dark robes moving with synchronized purpose. Lucius Malfoy is among them, his pale hair gleaming in the autumn sunlight. So is Bellatrix Lestrange, her eyes wild with the kind of manic energy that suggests violence is imminent. Peter Pettigrew is there too, looking nervous, as he always does in direct combat situations. Snape is waiting at the gates to the Potter estate, having arrived at 11 o'clock under the pretense of ensuring the location was properly prepared. His heart is hammering so hard he's certain Voldemort must hear it, but his face remains blank, professional, the perfect mask of a loyal servant. Severus, Voldemort says, and there's something almost affectionate in his voice. You've served me well. Your information has been invaluable. Today you will witness the next phase of our victory. Thank you, my lord, Snape says, and he bows slightly. Voldemort leads his followers into the Potter house. The interior is dim, dusty, covered in the accumulated debris of months of abandonment. The drawing room where Voldemort killed James Potter is now the stage for what he believes will be another triumph. He moves to the center of the room and raises his wand. Lily Evans, Voldemort calls out, and his voice echoes through the cottage with an unnatural resonance, amplified by magic so that it reaches far beyond the walls. I know you can hear me. I know you're listening. And I'm giving you a choice. Come to me now, surrender yourself and the child you're protecting, and I will allow your daughter to live. Refuse, and I will burn this entire village to the ground. I will kill everyone in it. Muggles, wizards, children, the elderly, it will make no difference. The fire will take them all. Snape's blood runs cold. This is not part of any plan. This is Voldemort acting on pure instinct, using the most obvious weapon available to him. Threats, terror, the absolute certainty that Lily will choose her principles over her life. But Voldemort has miscalculated. Because Lily isn't hiding in the village. She's not in any of the cottages that Snape identified. She's in the place where Voldemort is standing right now. The confrontation. The first exchange. The protective wards on the cottage activate all at once. Voldemort has no warning. One moment he's standing in the drawing room, his Death Eaters positioned around him, and the next moment the air ignites with magical power so intense that it forces all of them to their knees. The wards are not simple protection spells. They're complex, layered, designed by someone who understands not just defensive magic, but the principles of force multiplication and entropy manipulation. Dumbledore's work. Snape recognizes it immediately. Lily appears in the doorway, her wand raised, her face set with an intensity that Snape has never seen before. She looks like a completely different person, not the gentle researcher he married, but something harder, sharper, something dangerous. You made a mistake, Lily says, and her voice is steady, clear, cutting through the chaos of the collapsing wards. You assumed I was hiding because I was afraid. But I was hiding because I was preparing. Every location Severus led you to, every false trail you followed, that was me learning. That was me understanding how you think, how you hunt, how you respond. Impossible, Voldemort hisses. But there's something in his expression that suggests doubt. You're a Mudblood researcher. You don't have the power. I have love, Lily says. I have a daughter I'm willing to fight for. I have a husband who's given me everything, who's risked everything. And I have Dumbledore's backing, which means I have resources that you can't even comprehend. She raises her wand, and the air itself begins to shimmer. Spells start flying, not at Voldemort directly, but at the structure of the wards that bind the Death Eaters. Malfoy tries to apparate away, but the anti-disapparition wards hold. Bellatrix throws herself at Lily, her wand blazing with curses, but Lily meets her curse for curse, spell for spell. Snape realizes, with a kind of awestruck clarity, that Lily is winning. She's not just defending herself. She's attacking with the precision of someone who has studied magic at a fundamental level, who understands not just how to cast spells, but why they work, how to layer them, how to make them more efficient, more powerful. Every curse Lily throws is optimized. Every defensive spell is constructed to do multiple things at once. Voldemort watches this exchange for a moment, and then something shifts in his expression. Understanding begins to dawn. "There is no prophecy, child," he says quietly, "and it's not a question. It's a realization." "No," Lily agrees. She's still fighting Bellatrix, still maintaining the wards that keep the Death Eaters trapped. The prophecy was always wrong. You were hunting for someone who never existed. You were building your entire strategy around a misunderstanding. "Then who is the child?" Voldemort demands, and there's a kind of desperate fury in his voice. "Who will vanquish me?" The prophecy said what you wanted it to say," Lily replies. "It said what your fear wanted it to say. But prophecies are tricky things, aren't they? They're not predictions of the future. They're just words spoken in a moment of magical overflow. And you decided to interpret them in a way that gave you an enemy to hunt. But your enemy never existed. Your enemy was always just a phantom. The prophecy's failure." The moment of truth, Voldemort's response, is catastrophic. He doesn't try to defeat Lily through magic. Instead, he does something far more dangerous. He releases his rage directly through magic, through his connection to the very fabric of the wizarding world. It's the kind of magic that only the most powerful wizards can access. The kind that requires an absolute loss of control, combined with absolute magical power. The drawing room of the Potter house begins to collapse. The walls crack. The ceiling fractures. Magical energy explodes outward, and for a moment, everything is chaos and fire, and the sound of the world breaking apart. Lily throws up a protective shield around herself in the doorway. Most of the Death Eaters are caught in the collapse. Not all of them dead, but injured, trapped, forced to apparate away or be crushed. Bellatrix escapes through a window, her robes singed, her face twisted in fury. Malfoy manages to grab Peter Pettigrew and pull him toward the exit. But Voldemort doesn't try to escape. Instead, he stands in the center of the collapsing room, his face a mask of absolute rage, and he turns toward Snape. Their eyes meet across the chaos. And in that moment, Snape sees something in Voldemort's expression that he's never seen before. Realization. Recognition. The understanding that he's been betrayed. "You knew," Voldemort says, his voice barely audible over the sound of destruction. "You knew all along. The woman, the child, you married her. You lied to me." "Yes," Snape says. "There's no point in lying anymore." "I did." Voldemort raises his wand, and Snape knows with absolute certainty that this is the moment where he dies. There's no escape, no clever counter-curse, no way out. He's known this was coming for months. He's accepted it. He's made peace with it. But then Lily does something unexpected. She breaks her shield and throws herself in front of Snape. A killing curse meant for him hits her instead. She falls, and there's a moment, just a moment, where the entire world seems to stop. Snape's choice, the final decision. Snape catches Lily as she falls. She's not dead, not yet, but the killing curse has done what it always does. It's severed her connection to her own magic, her own life force. She has moments, perhaps seconds. "Rose," Lily whispers, and her hand grabs Snape's robes. "Promise me. Promise me you'll get her out. Promise me you'll raise her. Promise me." "I promise," Snape says, and he's crying for the first time in years. "I promise you, Lily. I swear it. I will get her out. I will raise her. I will make sure she knows who you were, what you sacrificed. But Lily is already gone." And Snape, in that moment of absolute grief and absolute clarity, makes a choice. He stands, leaving Lily's body behind. He turns to face Voldemort, who is still standing in the center of the collapsing room. And Snape does something that should be impossible for a man as skilled in occlumency as he is. He drops all his shields. He lets his mind open completely to Voldemort's legitimacy. He lets the Dark Lord see everything: his love for Lily, his devotion to Dumbledore, his years of espionage, his hatred for Voldemort, his fear for his daughter. He lets it all flood out like a beacon. And then, while Voldemort is distracted by the overwhelming emotional tsunami, Snape performs a single perfect apparition. He doesn't go far, just to the back room of the cottage where he'd held Rose that morning. The protective wards prevent Voldemort from following him there. And Rose is waiting, her small hand gripping a wooden block, her eyes wide with confusion and fear. Snape picks her up, pulls her close, and apparates again, this time to a location that only Dumbledore knows. The aftermath and what could have been, the final reckoning in the drawing room of the Potter house. Voldemort stands alone, his mind reeling from the psychic assault of Snape's open thoughts. The wards are failing. The building is collapsing. And for the first time in his life, Tom Riddle experiences something that might charitably be called doubt. The prophecy was wrong. The child he's been hunting doesn't exist. The woman he just killed wasn't the mother of his doom. She was the wife of his spy, the person who has been orchestrating his downfall from inside his own circle. And the spy has escaped with the child. Voldemort apparates away just as the ceiling collapses completely. The Potter house crumbles into rubble, and with it the body of Lily Snape, sacrificed not because of prophecy, not because of destiny, but because of love. Simple love. The most powerful magic in existence. The divergence. How this timeline differs from canon. In the timeline we know, Harry Potter survives Voldemort's attack through the magic of his mother's sacrifice, protected by ancient blood magic and the power of Lily's love for her son. This protection allows Harry to become the chosen one, the one destined to defeat Voldemort. In this timeline, there is no such protection. Lily's sacrifice saves Snape and Rose, but it doesn't create any magical shield that will protect them from Voldemort forever. And without a prophecy-protected child to serve as the Dark Lord's eventual nemesis, the war takes a very different shape. What happens next is this. Voldemort, faced with the realization that his entire strategic framework was built on a misunderstanding, becomes even more dangerous. He begins to consolidate power in a different way. He can no longer rely on the prophecy to give him something to hunt. Instead, he must hunt the Order of the Phoenix directly, methodically, systematically. The war becomes far bloodier than it was in the original timeline. Without a magical protection to rely on, without a prophecy child who might eventually defeat him, Order members are forced to rely purely on strategy and skill. And Voldemort, freed from the distraction of hunting a phantom, becomes capable of almost unprecedented destruction. James Potter, in this timeline, survives. He dies in August, yes, but as a casualty of war rather than as a result of prophecy. And his survival, or rather, his death, changes everything about how the Order functions in the final months of the war. Dumbledore becomes the primary target. The Order is forced to consolidate, to protect the headmaster at all costs, because if Voldemort defeats Dumbledore, there is no one left capable of matching him in direct magical combat. But here's the crucial thing. Dumbledore survives 1981. He survives because he's not facing a Voldemort distracted by hunting for a prophecy child. He's facing a Voldemort who is completely focused, completely committed, and completely calculating. And Dumbledore, in response, becomes equally focused. In late October 1981, just days after Lily's death, Dumbledore makes a decision. He calls together the senior members of the Order and proposes something radical. Instead of hiding, instead of running, the Order is going to take the war directly to Voldemort. It's a strategy that will cost lives. The war will continue for another year at least, perhaps 2. Order members will die. Some of them will be people we know and love. But eventually, through strategy and sacrifice, through the accumulation of small victories and the relentless pressure of a unified force, the Order will break Voldemort's power base. Voldemort will not fall to the power of prophecy. He will fall to the power of ordinary wizards and witches who refuse to surrender, who refuse to accept darkness, who choose to fight even when victory is not assured. Snape's second life. The epilogue. Snape raises Rose in secret. He takes a sabbatical from Hogwarts and goes underground, moving from safe house to safe house, keeping his daughter hidden from the war that rages around them. He tells Rose stories about her mother, stories about Lily's brilliance and her courage and her love. He tells Rose about the sacrifice Lily made. When Rose is old enough to understand, when she's perhaps 3 or 4 years old, Snape brings her to meet Dumbledore. The headmaster looks at the child with an expression of infinite sadness. She has her mother's eyes, Dumbledore says quietly. She has her mother's mind too, Snape replies. She's brilliant already. I can see it. Then we must protect that brilliance, Dumbledore says. Severus, I have a proposal. When this war ends, and it will end, I promise you that, I want you to return to Hogwarts. I want you to teach, and I want you to raise Rose there, in the castle, in the place where her parents first found each other. I can't go back, Snape says. After everything I've done, you can, Dumbledore says firmly. And you will, because Rose deserves to grow up in a place of learning and safety, and you deserve to have a life that extends beyond this war. The war ends in early 1982, not with a single dramatic confrontation, but with the slow accumulation of Order victories and the gradual realization among Death Eaters that their cause is lost. Voldemort survives, but weakened, stripped of his power, forced to hide in the margins of the wizarding world. Snape returns to Hogwarts. He becomes potions master once more, and he raises Rose Snape in the castle. Hidden in plain sight, a girl who is brilliant and fierce and kind, who loves her father desperately and grieves for a mother she never knew. The final question: what if? This is the question at the heart of this timeline. What if the prophecy had never been about a James Lily child? What if the entire foundation of the war had been built on a misunderstanding? What if love, genuine, sacrificial love, was enough to change the course of history without needing prophecy, without needing destiny, without needing the weight of a magical contract written in the fabric of the universe? In this timeline, it was. Lily chose Snape. That choice meant there would be no Harry Potter. That choice meant there would be no magical protection, no prophesied hero, no destiny-driven narrative that guaranteed good would triumph over evil. That choice meant that victory, when it came, would be hard-won, uncertain, and tragically expensive. But it came. And in its coming, it proved something fundamental about the nature of magic and love. That the greatest power in the world is not prophecy or destiny or magical contracts. It's the simple choice to love someone, to sacrifice for them, to refuse to accept darkness even when you're afraid. Lily Evans chose love, and in that choice, she changed everything.